Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Apocalypse. People in Kimchi country, professional undead mage crossing into the apocalyptic world where zombies roam. Become an international student in the Kimchi country. Carry a talent tree with you, killing zombies can light up your talents. Undead Contract. Sign a contract with the underworld, and the undead will worship you as their lord. Summoning Skull. Summoning a undead skeleton soldier with a corpse as a sacrifice. Undead Disaster, summoning ghost dragons, flame storm, war halo, faced with a sea of zombies. Countless celebrities, dignitaries, and tycoons have made every effort to enter Hanmu's base. Madam, you don't want your husband to die, do you? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. The Contract of the Dead. Summon the Skull. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh my goodness, don't mess with me. At this moment, Hanmu's heart seemed to have 10,000 grass mud horses rushing past. I woke up and traveled through time. Parallel worlds with the same background. However, his current identity is a student studying abroad in a cold country. What he couldn't accept the most was that the world had just erupted into the end of the world. A meteorite from the universe has brought a mysterious virus. People infected with the virus will gradually collapse their genes and eventually become irrational zombies. In just 1 week, the virus spread all over the world. Nearly 1/3 of the world's population has turned into zombies. Strong countries such as Dragon Country, Lighthouse Country, and Bear Country can barely maintain a certain level of order. On the 3rd day of the outbreak of the apocalypse, countries with weak military power such as the Cold Country and the Sakura Country were already completely chaotic. Those high-ranking elites in the Cold Country may have taken planes to illegally cross into other countries for a long time. The current situation in the Cold Country is very bad, except for scattered armed forces. More than half of the area has been completely occupied by zombies. Compared to the bustling capital, it is actually those rural cities that can still maintain a trace of order. Hey! Hanmu exclaimed in surprise. Above his line of sight, a sparkling icon caught his attention. A brown icon with a golden tree painted on it. It looks like the skill tree in the game. I was in a chaotic mood just now and didn't pay attention. Now I realize there's something like this. Concentrate. The icon opens and a dense list is pulled down. Summoning, Magic, Warrior, Auxiliary, Universal. There are a total of 5 categories, each with thousands of innate skills. It's like a big tree with lush branches and leaves, constantly splitting and extending downwards. Current available skill points. 2 skill points. Hanmu squinted his eyes slightly. After flipping through all the skills, Hanmu's gaze was on summoning talents. The initial consumption of magic is too high and not practical. Warriors are too dangerous. If you accidentally get caught by a zombie, you'll get cold. On the contrary, summoning classes are more suitable for the current situation. Under the summoning category, there are dozens of summoning categories. Animals, plants, elves, undead, tree spirits, star spirits, heroes, demons, orcs, elements, angels, dragons, giants, evil gods. Each category has a prerequisite talent. The stronger the category, the more skill points it consumes. Animals, plants, undead, elves, elements, orcs, and other common races can be illuminated with just 1 skill point. Rare races such as dragons, giants, and demons require at least 2 skill points to light up. Hanmu pondered for a moment and chose the category of summoning the undead tribe. Although the starting point of the undead tribe is low, it has great potential. In the later stage of the undead disaster, 1 person is a legion. Not inferior to high-level sequences such as dragons and giants. Whether to consume 1 skill point and light up the prerequisite talent. Undead Contract yes. Undead Contract, Basic Talent. Beginner LV1, Effect. Can summon low-level undead, with an upper limit of +1 undead summoning items. You sign a contract with the underworld, and the undead will serve you as the lord. After lighting up the Undead Contract, 3 new talents suddenly lit up in front of me. Summoning Undead, Summoning Skull, Summoning Ghost. 3 talents only require 1 skill point to light up. The undead, similar to a zombie, resurrects the body of the deceased and endows it with mobility. Ghosts are immune to physical attacks, but their attack power is average. Skeleton soldiers have no key points, only by shattering the fire of the soul can they die. Compared to corpses, skeletons are more in line with my aesthetics. Hanmu decisively lit up his talent. Summoning Skull, Basic Talent. Beginner LV1, Effect. Can summon an undead skeleton that is not afraid of death to fight for you, using corpses as a medium to reduce consumption by 2/3. Reducing the consumption by 2/3 is quite tempting, but where is he going to get a corpse? Let him go fight the zombies. Hanmu was speechless for a moment. Try the strength of this skeleton soldier. The first level summoning skeleton can only summon 1 skeleton at a time, but can be repeated. In theory, he can summon as many skeletons as he has summoning positions. Summon skeleton soldiers. In an instant, most of the mental energy was drained. On the floor, a magical circle filled with the smell of death instantly took shape. Step by step. A 2-meter-tall giant skeleton walked out of the magic circle. The pale bones held a sharp bone knife in their hand. Deep in the eye sockets, the green soul fire flickers and beats. Hush. Hanmu was completely shocked. Do you tell me this is the most garbage skeleton soldier? Chop down the table next to you. Hanmu plans to test the strength of this skeleton soldier. Who? The fire of the soul leaps. The skeleton soldier swung a knife towards the wooden table next to him. The terrifying force directly plunged the bone knife into the wooden table. With 3 or 2 cuts, the entire wooden table was cut into a pile of broken wood. The power is much stronger than ordinary people, and the speed is not slow. Hanmu was a bit surprised. If this kind of skeleton soldier could summon thousands. Zombies and the like are not just indiscriminate killings. However, what should be done with skill points? Hanmu frowned. Without skill points, new talents cannot be illuminated. This is a serious problem. Gollum gollum. A strange noise suddenly came from inside the stomach. Hanmu's face stiffened. I almost forgot, this guy hasn't eaten for 3 days. On the 2nd day after the end of the world, the food at home was completely consumed. Zombies are everywhere on the streets. Originally, Hanmu was a coward who dared not go out to find food. As a result, he was directly starved to death. Hanmu felt a bit speechless when he thought about it. I would rather starve than go out and fight. This kid has some brain problems. Let's go out and find something to eat first. Hanmu searched the room and found a baseball bat. Leaving the homestay quietly with the skeleton soldiers. On the street, there was a desolate silence. Low buildings are congested together, with garbage piled up in the corners. If it weren't for the ubiquitous Hanwen, I might even have thought I had arrived in the Sakura country. Hanmu is used to it. Although Cold Country is a developed country, it is not as beautiful as imagined. Apart from a few bustling commercial areas, there are more of these short and dilapidated old houses. A narrow street with very small spacing between houses, barely enough to park a car. As the saying goes, a house passes down 3 generations. It is normal for 3 generations of ancestors and grandchildren to live under the same roof in the Cold Country. The upper class holds 90% of the wealth, and their per capita income can only barely meet their basic needs compared to prices. Fruits and vegetables have become luxury items. To some extent, the standard of living is not even comparable to that of small cities in the 3rd and 4th tier of China. Roar. A deep roar came from behind. A zombie wandering on the street discovered Han Mu. Chapter 2. The use of crystal nuclei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this a zombie? Looking at the zombie behind him, Han Mu's eyes showed a curious expression. The zombie list looks no different from ordinary people in appearance. But upon closer observation, you will notice some differences. Firstly, the body's joints are not coordinated, perhaps due to a viral infection that has destroyed some nerves. The walking posture of zombies can be very eerie, such as uneven shoulders and limping feet. Next is skin color. The zombie's skin appears a faint grayish-white color. The eyeballs are pure white with no pupils. The mouth cannot be closed, there are bloodstains between the teeth, and it can be opened at an exaggerated angle. The speed is slightly faster than that of ordinary people walking. I don't know how strong it is. Han Mu ordered the skeleton soldiers to slaughter the zombies. Shwa. The pale bone knife flashed, and the zombie's body was cruelly cut to the waist. The lower body loses mobility, but the upper body still has some aggressiveness. Han Mu looked at the zombies crawling over with both hands. Curiously poked with a baseball bat. Bang! The zombie let out a roar. Han Mu suddenly felt a strong force attacking him, and his heart trembled inwardly. The power is a bit exaggerated, slightly stronger than ordinary people. After the zombie mutation, the body's functions not only did not decrease, but even slightly improved. Are these zombies evolving? Han Mu's mood suddenly became solemn. This is not a good thing. Zombies are constantly becoming stronger, and if humans were still standing still, they would eventually be replaced by zombies. Fortunately, these guys don't have intelligence, otherwise it would be really dangerous. Han Mu continues to experiment with zombies. Finally, draw a conclusion. In addition to a slight improvement in strength and physique, the flexibility of the zombie's body has also become non-human. Simply put, the head and upper body can rotate 180 degrees. Even if you strangle the neck of a zombie from behind, you will still be attacked by the zombie. As for weaknesses, burst the heart, the zombie's physical strength will decrease, the spine will be broken, and the zombie will lose its mobility. But none of this is the fatal point of zombies. The shattered heart and spine will self-repair over time and with eating. The only way to kill zombies is to smash their brains. Destroy the core of the brain. Bang! Han Mu used 2 or 3 sticks to smash the skull of the zombie. Within the empty skull, less than 1/3 of the brain remains. A gray crystal embedded in the skull. Dense blood vessels, like nerves, connect crystals and control the body and instincts of zombies. As Han Mu picked up the crystal core, the struggling zombie finally quieted down. Immortal and indestructible, even the most serious injury can be healed. Rather than being a mutation, it's more like a higher level evolution, just a failure. Han Mu's eyes were complex. What he saw from the zombies was an ambition that humans have always pursued. Eternal life. The evolution of life levels, from humans to gods. Unfortunately, the span is too large, almost impossible. So these people failed and became the walking dead they are today. If they succeed, a group of immortals will emerge in this world. Han Mu glanced aside and suddenly saw a flash in the talent tree. Open the list. Nothing has changed, except for an additional line below the list. Remaining experience points. 10 points. Do you still have experience in killing zombies? Han Mu licked his tongue. This is not a game, giving experience points to fighting monsters has a ghostly effect. If it's difficult, you can still upgrade. Upgrade. Han Mu's eyes lit up and he quickly opened the talent tree to find summoning talents. Undead Contract, Basic Talent. Beginner LV1, Effect. Can summon low-level undead, with an upper limit of +1 undead summoning items, you sign a contract with the underworld, and the undead will serve you as the lord, upgrade talent condition. 100 experience points, sure enough, although experience points cannot be upgraded, they can be used to enhance talent levels. A zombie has 10 points of experience. You only need to kill 10 zombies to upgrade your talent. Is it quite simple? Han Mu collected the crystals taken out of the zombie's brain. What's the big use of this thing if it's not guaranteed? Xiao Bai. Kill all the zombies on this street. Han Mu patted the skeleton's shoulder and passed a command. The fire of the soul beats, and the skeleton soldiers seem like a sharp arrow piercing through. Although he looks a bit ugly, he doesn't have the strength to say. Han Mu secretly licked his tongue. Skeleton soldiers, in terms of strength, defense, and speed, are clearly not on the same level as ordinary people. The speed that just erupted has at least reached a level of 100 meters/10 seconds. This level is strength. Isn't fighting a zombie the same as fighting a sun? Schwa. With a pale bone knife, a wandering zombie was directly slain by the owl's head. On a 100-meter-long path, there are more than 10 wandering zombies. In less than 3 minutes, he was completely killed by Xiao Bai. This efficiency is so numb. Han Mu couldn't help but sigh. Choosing the undead genre was simply the wisest choice he had ever made. What are the advantages of the undead? They are not afraid of pain, infection, or death. More importantly, there is no fatigue or need for rest. Online 24 hours a day, compared to the undead, any 996 is trash. Capitalists would burst into tears upon seeing it. Killing all the zombies, the skeleton soldiers returned to Han Mu's side with steady steps. Open your palm and reveal gray crystal nuclei one by one. I'm injured. Han Mu glanced at the body of the skeleton soldier, and there were obvious marks of heavy blows on his arms and chest. This is the scar left by the zombies' counterattack. Although it's not serious, a small amount adds up. If you don't pay attention, this skeleton soldier will soon be defeated. Han Mu still has some emotions towards his first summon. Whether bones are hard or not is related to calcium. I wonder if skeletons can chew on bones and drink milk. Han Mu glanced at the silly and cute skeleton soldiers, and estimated that it was not possible. At this moment, Han Mu noticed that the skeleton soldier's gaze had been fixed on the crystal nucleus in his hand. The fire of the soul beats rapidly, conveying a desire. Do you want this? Han Mu took out a crystal nucleus and asked curiously. He didn't know what this thing was for, he just felt curious and collected it. I didn't expect the skeleton soldiers to be interested in this thing. The skeleton soldier nodded silently. Although not very wise, I can barely understand Han Mu's words. Interesting. A skeleton, surprisingly interested in this crystal nucleus dug out from the zombie's brain. Han Mu took out a crystal nucleus with great interest and threw it to Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai took the crystal nucleus and eagerly raised it, placing it in front of his eyes. The fire of the soul spreads out, enveloping the entire crystal nucleus. The thumb-sized crystal nucleus slowly dissolves and eventually disappears completely. Han Mu saw that the broken bones on Xiao Bai's body were repaired at a visible speed and became even harder. Chapter 3 Madam, you don't want. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this evolution? Han Mu was somewhat surprised. It is obvious that skeleton soldiers can evolve by devouring the power of crystal nuclei. Is this the purpose of crystal nuclei? Undead spirits can directly devour crystal nuclei, how can humans absorb the power of crystal nuclei? Swallow it directly. Han Mu had a disgusting expression on his face. This thing is dug out of the zombie's mind. If he carries the virus, he won't mutate directly. After some thought, Han Mu took out another crystal nucleus and handed it to Xiao Bai. The novice refused and directly swallowed the crystal nucleus in front of him. 1, 2, 3 Having devoured about 5 crystal nuclei, Xiao Bai stopped moving. Have you reached the upper limit? Han Mu rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It seems that although the undead can absorb the power of crystal nuclei, it is not without limitations. Even if you eat too much with others, you will still be able to hold on to it. Unfortunately, there has been no evolution. Han Mu looked at Xiao Bai. The power of devouring 5 crystal nuclei, the soul fire in the eyes seemed to be even more vigorous, as if adding firewood. The bones are thicker, with thick joints protruding from the joints, and the bone knife in hand seems to have been extended a bit. Dang! Han Mu knocked on Xiao Bai's bone. It feels like hitting a rock slab, and the hardness has at least doubled. If we absorb all these crystal nuclei, maybe we can evolve once. He could feel that Xiao Bai's body had reached a critical point. It's almost enough to go further. Breaking through this boundary is not easy. It could be 5 or 10 crystal nuclei. Han Mu opened his talent list and now he has a total of 150 experience points. Han Mu directly elevated the Undead Contract to level 2. Undead Contract, Basic Talent. Beginner LV2, Effect. Can summon low-level undead, with a maximum summoning limit of +2 undead type items. You sign a contract with the underworld, and the undead will serve you as the lord. Upgrade talent condition. 200 experience points. The upgraded undead contract has no significant changes in attributes. Just an additional summoning position has been added. In close combat, there's a novice, but we still need a long-range shooter. Han Mu glanced at the talent tree. There is a summoning talent in the Undead series called the Skeleton Archer, but to light up this talent, the prerequisite is to light up the 2nd level Undead Contract and the 3rd level Summoning Skull. And a skill point. Experience points are okay, where should skill points be obtained? Han Mu is a bit depressed. Summoning Skull. This talent can only summon ordinary skeleton soldiers even when it reaches its full level. Just transitioning from one skull to summoning multiple skeletons simultaneously. Without skill points, one cannot learn advanced talents. First, find a way to elevate both talents to their full level before proceeding. Only when the basic talent points are full can the next stage of talent be illuminated. Fortunately, upgrading talents does not require skill points. Han Mu looked at the cleared streets. Take Xiao Bai straight to a 3-story villa and residential building. This is a distance from the city center, and the nearest supermarket is also 3 blocks away. If you want to find food, it's better to try your luck at the neighbor's house. And nearby, he is most familiar with the owner of these 3-story small villas. He is also his current landlord. However, Han Muyuan's impression of his landlord is not very good. The landlord is a middle-aged bald old man with some money in his family, but his personality is a bit irritable. Moreover, I particularly dislike dragon people. Even the rent is 20% higher than others. This is not a special case in the cold country, as over 90% of the people in the cold country strongly reject the dragon people. The reason is quite simple, nothing more than political correctness. To put it simply, cold country is a dog raised in lighthouse country. The owner of the dog hates dragon country, so it's natural for them to express their heartfelt feelings. The upper class takes the lead, while the lower class only knows how to follow the trend. Plus a bit of a nouveau riche mentality. So, it's not difficult to understand. Ding dong. Han Mu gently rang the doorbell. Not long after, there was a sound of footsteps coming from inside the tightly closed anti-theft door. Who is it? Inside the anti-theft door, a nervous and expectant sound could be heard. A bald old man appeared in Han Mu's mind, carefully holding a kitchen knife and hiding behind the door. Looking forward to the army rescuing them from the zombies. Unfortunately, those armies now have no time to worry about these low-level civilians. It's me. Han Mu showed his face calmly in the cat's eyes. Axie, you bastard dog, why haven't you been eaten by those monsters yet? A string of malicious curses came from the room. Hurry up and get out of here, don't bring those monsters over. I knew I couldn't let the bastards from Dragon Country live in my house. Han Mu's expression suddenly cooled down. In the room, the bald old man was still chattering and cursing incessantly. Get out of here, you bastard. Do you want to die? Han Mu took out a cigarette and slowly lit it. Take 2 steps back to reveal space. Xiao Bai, open the door for me. The silent little wight slowly raised the bone knife in his hand. Boom. The anti-theft door was cut open. Axie, what are you doing, you bastard? The landlord's voice became panicked. Han Mu looked at Xiao Bai with a calm expression, cutting open the anti-theft door one by one. After more than 10 cuts, the anti-theft door has been hacked through. Another dozen or so dollars, the hard anti-theft door collapsed with a loud bang. Inside the empty door frame, a bald man in pajamas trembled as he held a kitchen knife. Looking at the terrifying shadow holding a bone knife with a bewildered expression. In front of the shadow, the young boy showed a bright smile. Landlord uncle, your temper is still so irritable. The smile gradually narrowed, and Han Mu's eyes showed indifference. Hold a knife at me, do you want to die? Xiao Bai slowly raised the bone knife in his hand, and a cold killing intent enveloped the landlord. The landlord's legs trembled as if he would be killed by this terrifying monster in the next second. Gudong. Carefully swallowing and spitting. The landlord placed the kitchen knife on the ground, raised his hands, and a forced smile appeared on his face. Little brother, this is a misunderstanding. Han Mu glanced at the luxurious decoration in the living room. Compared to his rental, this place is simply a luxury mansion. The end of the world, there is no need to mistreat oneself. From now on, this place belongs to me. Axie, you can't do this, then what should I do? Han Mu's cold gaze swept over, and the landlord's cold sweat came down. What do you do? What does it have to do with me? Han Mu walked into the villa on his own, completely treating it as his own home. Open the refrigerator and take out a bag of snacks to eat. Taking a glance at the landlord who was stunned in place, Han Mu frowned. Don't you leave yet, waiting for me to see you off. The landlord lowered his head, his eyes resentful. Husband, what's going on down there? A burst of footsteps suddenly came from the staircase. Han Mu raised his head and a pair of straight and slender round and beautiful legs came into his eyes. A mature young woman wearing black yoga pants and a white tank top is nervously standing on the stairs. With a broad chest, slender waist and limbs, an astonishing burden. The breathtaking figure instantly ignited a fire in Han Mu's heart. Looking at the bald old man with an unpleasant expression next to him, Han Mu suddenly had a bold idea. The corners of the mouth slightly raised, revealing an aggressive smile. Madam, you don't want your husband to feed the zombies, do you? Chapter 4. Landlord's Wife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Second floor, master bedroom. Han Mu looked at the empty street outside the window and slowly exhaled a mouthful of thick smoke. Ever since I knew I was in the end of the world, I had an indescribable sense of urgency in my heart. The recent incident poured a lot of pressure into his heart. It has to be said that Zioxaba has an innate talent in the service industry. This is related to the characteristics of the cold country society. The social phenomenon of male superiority and female inferiority is severe in this country. At work, women's hourly wages are much lower than those of men in the same position. After getting married, it is even more important to take on everything in the family. Moreover, the people of the cold country practice chauvinism. It is normal for men to socialize outside and even engage in open and honest extramarital affairs. Even if the wife at home discovers it, she dare not do anything. Daring to divorce will only lead to a more miserable life, even being exposed by public opinion websites. This also caused women in the cold country to have a kind of submissive nature that is as gentle as a dog in their bones. I really should throw those boxers here to taste what it's like to suffer from human suffering. Thinking of those boxing masters who shouted, pigeons, pigeons, and oba, and engaged in various double-standard boxing on the Weibo forum in their past lives. Hanmu suddenly felt a bit nauseous. How unlucky. He does not object to the equal rights of women for all. I simply dislike those boxers who claim gender equality but are confident enough to make men pay. As long as there are opponents, they are directly labeled as straight male cancer. The spiritual power has almost recovered, you can summon it again. Hanmu walked out of the villa and found the body of a zombie. When summoning undead spirits, sacrificing corpses can reduce consumption by 2/3. Slowly extend a hand. On the ground, a magical formation emitting a sense of death instantly took shape. A large amount of spiritual power poured into the magic circle. This time, the skeleton soldiers were not summoned from the magic circle, but crawled out directly from the body. With the appearance of the skeleton soldiers, the corpses on the ground also disappeared. Looking at this skeleton soldier with a body size similar to that of a zombie, Hanmu licked his tongue. It's a bit interesting. You just call Xiao by number 2. Hanmu patted Xiao by number 2 on the shoulder. Take out blocks of crystal nuclei from your pocket and throw them to Xiao by number 2. The soul fire was jumping wildly, and Xiao by number 2 picked up the crystal core and placed it in front of him. The fire of the soul spreads, devouring all crystal nuclei. Absorbing the power of 5 crystal nuclei, the bones of Xiao by number 2 became faintly thicker. 2 skeleton soldiers, they should be enough for now. Hanmu nodded in satisfaction. Enter the villa with Xiao by number 2. The landlord, with a decadent expression on his face, sat cautiously in the corner. Upon hearing the commotion, he looked up at Hanmu and quickly lowered his head. There was a hint of fear in the resentful gaze. In theory, he should hate this guy to die now. But deep down, I don't want this guy to die. Although this damn bastard is not human. But without his protection, how long can he and his wife live in this world full of zombies? Compared to women, he wants to live more. Hanmu gave the landlord a strange look in his eyes. This guy is not quite right. How do you feel so cowardly? Hanmu couldn't help but think of the Sakura country. It is said that the islanders who lived well in their childhood admired the strong. As long as you can defeat and ravage them, the islanders will treat you like a father. Simply put, it means fearing authority but not morality. Give some benefits, they won't be grateful to you, but will instead expect more. If you don't give it, they'll go grab it. But the harder you fight, the more scared you become. They will worship and revere you the more, even treating you as a fanatical faith. And take pride in it. Even worse, they will send the most beautiful woman over, begging to leave a noble bloodline. From a normal person's perspective, this behavior is simply pathological. But they enjoy this and not that. Although cold country is not Sakura country, there are also many similarities. She's too tired, so she stayed in her room overnight today. Of course, you can also stay here. Hanmu looked at the landlord's expression while speaking. Unexpectedly, although angry, there was no hint of resistance. It seems like I have already accepted my fate. Hanmu was a bit surprised, it would be replaced by a dragon man. On the surface, a group of cowards may have planned behind the scenes how to kill you. After all, killing a father and taking a wife is unacceptable. This doesn't seem as open-minded as the people of the cold country. The road has widened. Hanmu couldn't help but sigh. He can't even find a reason to kill this guy now. They even submitted the bottom line for the sake of survival. Killing someone again made Hanmu feel a bit guilty in his heart. Forget it, leave him a dog's life for now. In addition to relaxing, Hanmu did not forget the main matter. Although he cleaned up the zombies on the street, there must be more zombies not found. His next goal is to clean up all the zombies in the surrounding area. How can a place where one sleeps allow others to snore? There were zombies around him, and he couldn't sleep soundly. Clean up the surrounding zombies, build a layer of defense, and gather a group of survivors to build a safe zone. Why do we need to be single player when we can be the boss? After establishing the survivor base, the next step is to explore outward. The area where he lives is not far from the city center. If everything goes smoothly, we can open up the urban area within a month at most. If several factories can be cleaned up to maintain basic self-sufficiency, then the most basic living guarantee will be available. Hanmu opened his phone and connected to the internet. The end of the world has arrived, and the only good news is that the internet has not been disconnected. Now the entire internet is filled with an atmosphere of panic. The water source cannot be consumed. A top trending search that caught Hanmu's attention. The poster is posted by a national researcher. The general meaning is that the virus content in the water source of underground rivers is high, and the more you drink, the greater the chance of turning into zombies. With the current level of technology mastered by humans, it is difficult and costly to completely filter viruses from water sources. It is impossible to provide it to everyone on a large scale. Chapter 5. Smart Zombies. You are listening at novelfull.audio. People can live for 2 to 3 weeks without eating. But without water, one can only live for a maximum of 3 days. If groundwater resources are contaminated, then drinkable water sources will become strategic resources. Hanmu shook his head. He doesn't have to worry about these issues for now. Arrange for the second person to guard their home, and Hanmu will leave the villa with Xiao Bai. Start cleaning from nearby houses. In front of a 2-story ordinary residential building. Hanmu knocked on the door, but there was no response for half a day. I gave a glance to the side. Touch. Xiao Bai raised his bone knife and with 2 forward cuts, he directly smashed the anti-theft door. Before Hanmu could see the situation inside the house clearly, a black shadow rushed out from inside. Shwa. Xiao Bai waved his bone knife indifferently and slashed the black shadow's waist. Puff. Watching the zombies wriggling and struggling on the ground. Wearing work clothes, around the age of 30, not very tall, but physically strong. Ordinary people can only obediently wait to die when encountering such zombies. After all, these are not the slow-moving, stupid, and blind zombies in movies. Hanmu's expressionless stick directly smashed the zombie's skull. Extract a crystal nucleus from the skull, wipe it clean, and put it in your pocket. Entering the room, I searched through each room one by one. A refrigerator of food, 2 boxes of mineral water, and some rice and noodles. Save some food, it's enough for a family of 5 to eat for a week. Scraped the first floor, Hanmu went up to the second floor. Pushing aside a bedroom, a pungent smell of blood rushed straight to the brain. The eye-catching scene made Hanmu's stomach churn. A high school student wearing a school uniform is squatting on the ground, gnawing on bright red internal organs. In the corner, a lonely head rolled down. With long black hair and a blurry face, it was vaguely evident that she was a middle-aged woman. The round gaze showed a complex expression of fear, despair, and sadness. The zombie slowly turned its head while gnawing on the corpse. Her tender face was dyed red with blood, and there were scattered flesh and blood on the corners of her mouth. The corner of the mouth cracked with an abnormal curve, revealing a ferocious smile. Roar. With a roar, the zombie rushed towards Hanmu. Following closely behind, Xiao Bai took a step forward and with a sweep of his bone knife, he directly repelled the zombie. The speed and strength seemed to be faster than ordinary zombies. Watching the zombie on all fours, wandering around Little White like a wild beast. Hanmu felt lost in thought. When encountering a powerful opponent, one knows how to be afraid, unlike ordinary zombies who charge recklessly. This indicates that the zombie has already acquired animal-like intelligence. Encountering so many zombies, this is still the first zombie with only wisdom. Is it because after eating people, the body and brain have evolved? Hanmu felt that this zombie had some research value, but unfortunately he did not come from a science background. Keeping it is also a trouble. I can only ask you to die. Hanmu had an idea. The little white man holding a bone knife slowly forced the zombie into the corner. The intelligent zombie tried several times to break through, but its speed and strength were not as fast as the little white who had absorbed the crystal core. Finally, the zombie forced into the corner was killed with a single slash. Ding above the perspective, the golden icon keeps flashing. Hanmu opens the talent tree. Under the talent list, experience points skyrocketed by 40 and reached 100 points again. Hanmu's gaze shifted downwards, revealing a look of surprise in his eyes. Current available skill points. 1. Skill points. He was originally puzzled about how to obtain skill points. I didn't expect it to be so simple. Kill rare evolutionary zombies or powerful mutants. Of course, there may also be some implicit conditions. But these are not important anymore. As long as he finds the direction, he can find ways to acquire skill points and become stronger. Open universal talents. Hanmu found a talent that he had already decided on. Physical enhancement, basic talent. Beginner LV1, effect. The overall physical fitness has been significantly strengthened, and physical fitness, strength, recovery, metabolism, and resistance to impact have been enhanced. Talent upgrade requirement. 1000 experience points. The undead is just his minion. One's own strength is fundamental. It's impossible for him to be accompanied by a group of undead spirits at all times. If one is too weak, even if there are billions of undead soldiers, it is impossible to guarantee comprehensive protection for them. It is said that the thief must first capture the king, and his future enemy is not Shabi. He must fight against a group of undead spirits who are not afraid of death. But what if these undead masters are the Western Chu hegemons who can defeat 10,000 with one enemy? The assassins are probably going to be dumbfounded. Assassination turns into mass destruction. So, his own strength must definitely keep up. Moreover, physical enhancement is a prerequisite talent for most physical talents. After upgrading to intermediate level, a secondary talent can be illuminated. Toxin resistance. This talent is estimated to be immune to viral infections. Even if bitten by zombies, there is no need to be afraid of mutation. Lighting up talent, a wave of heat flows into all four limbs. Hanmu squinted his eyes, feeling the gradual strengthening of his body. Muscles are growing, bones become harder, cells are full of vitality, and the heart beats more vigorously on the originally slender arms and legs. There were clearly defined muscles with knife-like lines, and 8 abdominal muscles were also exposed on the belly. My height went directly from 1.78 meters to 1.85 meters. The whole body is filled with an inexhaustible force of release. My current strength should be similar to the recently summoned skeleton soldiers. Hanmu waved his baseball bat and easily smashed the zombie's skull. A white crystal nucleus was dug out from half of the skull. Only half the size of a fingertip. It seems to be more advanced than ordinary zombie crystal cores. Wipe it clean and put it in your pocket. Hanmu walked down to the next house with Xiao Bai. There are over 30 households in the entire street. Hanmu cleaned up one by one and spent a whole afternoon. During this period, a total of 30 zombies were killed. The collected materials are almost enough for 100 people to live for half a month. In addition to the zombies, Hanmu also found 25 survivors. Nearly 30 survivors have been eaten by zombies. Unfortunately, there was no second evolutionary type of zombie. Just a little stronger and faster than ordinary zombies. It seems that not all zombies can evolve. There are probably only a very few zombies that can evolve rapidly. Most zombies may need to consume a large amount of flesh and blood to evolve. Based on the current situation, zombies prefer to consume fresh, uninfected flesh and blood. But it cannot be ruled out that they will not devour each other. While thinking, Hanmu opened the talent list. He now has 400 experience points and can level up both Summoning Skull and Undead Contract. Or it can be upgraded by 2 levels, Summoning Skull. Summoning skeletons can be done slowly, first increase the level of the Undead Contract before proceeding. Hanmu consumes 200 experience and elevates the Undead Contract to level 3. With the remaining 200 experiences, I easily upgraded the Summoning Skull to level 2. After all, the skeleton archer he wants needs to summon the skeleton to level 3 in order to light up. Chapter 6 Survivors, Undead Warriors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A 3-story villa surrounded by a 2-meter-high wall. At the location of the gate, there is a simple pile of miscellaneous items piled up. It can effectively resist zombie invasions. It can only be used temporarily. Hanmu glanced at the clutter piled up at the door. At the rate of evolution of these zombies, it is estimated that it will not be long before they learn to use weapons. Not to mention the simple task of climbing. Take a gentle leap and climb over the debris piled up roadblock. Hanmu walked into a 3-story villa. The noisy sound seemed to press the pause button, and the living room was as silent as death. Hanmu glanced at the survivors crowded together in the living room. More than 20 people crowded into a living room. With a glance, everyone's expressions were captured. Fear, awe, there is a hint of deep-seated rejection and disgust in the depths of my eyes. Their hero, my enemy. These sticks don't take him seriously, how could he ever take these little West 8 seriously? However, despite that, this attitude is shared by those who save lives. It can only be said that he truly deserves to be Xiaoshiba. Hanmu squinted his eyes slightly. He doesn't need to get used to these mentally disabled people with such an attitude. If necessary, you can throw out a few as cannon fodder to attract zombies. More than 20 survivors, 2/3 of whom are men. There are only 6 or 7 women. 2 young women in their 30s, with the remaining few not exceeding 20 years old. Tight pants and hip-wrapped skirts perfectly showcase sexy curves. Han Chinese people really like tight pants and hip skirts. Hanmu couldn't resist roast. Eye care is real, and aesthetic fatigue is also real. These little girls have a pathological trend in this regard. A hot TV drama, with the male lead being a hot pot. When you go shopping, you will find that the whole street is covered in pot caps. The female lead is wearing a black long dress, and the women on the street are all wearing black dresses. Women don't need to choose when they go shopping, as there must be other stores in one store. Hanmu glanced at the appearance of several women, and for a moment it was dull and uninteresting. It's not ugly, but it's just an average level. And there are marks of moving a knife on his face. He doesn't dislike plastic surgery. But after the whole incident, how miserable was it before the incident? I can't speak at all. It's better for the landlord's wife. Hanmu's mind flashed with a beautiful and mature landlord's wife. The landlord's wife enjoys yoga and fitness. Although she is almost 30 years old, her body is very young and she knows a lot about it. Although she is a young woman, she is no different from a young man of 20. That beautiful young woman's face carries a seductive charm. It's just a ripe peach. Number 2, without my command, anyone dares to go up the stairs and kill them directly. Hanmu patted Xiaobai number 2's shoulder and entered the bedroom at the corner. In the corner of the hall, the Mediterranean landlord clenched his fists and his eyes turned red. There was a hint of powerlessness and resignation in the angry gaze. He dared not resist, and even dared not raise this idea. If this man dies, how long can they live in this world full of zombies? With a wife-like relationship, he can at least have a little more hope for survival than others. Although my wife is having in-depth conversations with others, at least she is at home. He also feels a bit involved. After a friendly conversation overnight, the relationship between Han Mu and the landlady's wife has become more tacit, reaching a point where one glance can determine the posture. Han Mu also knew the name of the landlord's wife. Ji Minji. A popular name in the cold country. Beauty Village is a hero's tomb, you can't be addicted to women. Without a woman in my heart, drawing a sword is natural. Women will only affect the speed at which they draw their knives. Han Mu took out a crystal nucleus from his pocket and threw it to the little white who had been guarding the door all night. Absorbing the power of 5 crystal nuclei is not the limit of Xiaobai. However, it takes time to digest the forces inside the crystal nucleus. In one night, the power of the 5 crystal nuclei should have been absorbed almost completely. Xiaobai held the crystal nucleus, and the soul fire boiled around it. Han Mu saw the situation and directly took out a handful of crystal nuclei. The novice refused and instantly devoured all the crystal nuclei. In the blink of an eye, 10 crystal nuclei were swallowed up. Han Mu saw this and wanted to continue digging the crystal nucleus, but was attracted by the changes in Xiaobai's body. The white bone flows like liquid, connecting bones one by one to form a ferocious bone armor on the surface of the body. The bone knife on the right hand is extended, the joints turn into sharp bone spurs, and the left hand condenses a half-human-sized shield. Is this evolved? Looking at Xiaobai, who exuded a strong aura all over, Han Mu was stunned. If the previous novice was a soldier who had just entered the battlefield, now he has become a warrior who has experienced countless battles. Skull Warrior, this name is good. Han Mu patted Xiaobai's shoulder with satisfaction on his face. The summoning creatures of the Undead series have a low starting point, but their maximum potential is extremely high. I still want to continue feeding the crystal nucleus, but unfortunately, Xiaobai has reached the limit. Han Mu regretfully smacked his lips. I can only try again tomorrow. Han Mu also called Xiaobai number 2 over. Throwing a crystal nucleus over, it only absorbed 7 or 8 crystal nuclei and successfully evolved. Han Mu glanced at Xiaobai and number 2. Although it's all evolution, but both in size and strength, they are clearly not of the same level. Is the potential of the undead also related to the sacrificed body? Han Mu felt lost in thought. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have summoned the undead with Xioxiba's corpse. Garbage. There is another summoning position, keep it for now. Han Mu decided to hold his ground. Before evolution, skeleton soldiers could hang and beat those zombies. The evolved elite skeleton warriors, killing a zombie is not as simple as slaughtering a chicken. Leave a summoning spot, it may come in handy. You 4, come out with me. Han Mu walked downstairs and casually ordered several young and strong people. He needs to collect enough materials in addition to brushing his experience when he goes out this time. 20 or so mouths open, without storing enough food and water, one will eventually starve to death. It doesn't matter how many young people die, but it's still useful for him to keep these guys. He plans to establish a survivor base. That means talents from various industries are indispensable. In addition to talent, there should also be a large number of low-level laborers. But in the end, everything is lacking, just not lacking people. As long as he can provide a sufficiently safe environment, some people will treat him like a dog. In the face of life and death, is dignity considered barren? He just asked these people to call their wives over to practice yoga with him. Many people take the initiative to wash their wives clean, put on yoga pants, and send them over. After completing the task, we have to ask him if his yoga practice is professional or not. Xiao Shiba and Xiao Ri cannot do anything else, their backbone is truly indescribable. The ancestors followed behind the dragon country as little brothers, and did not learn anything else. Instead, They learned the phrase, "A wise man is a handsome hero," thoroughly. Of course, no matter where it is, there is always that kind of brain ache that cannot see the form clearly. Chapter 7. Slave Cultivation. The Moment of Slaughter. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Several survivors were named with displeasure on their faces. It's so dangerous outside. Going out is not seeking death. A young man with a hot temper muttered. Axie, why should the Grand Hanming tribe listen to you, a dragon country thug? Why do we have to squeeze together so you can live in such a big house? This is our country, dragon people should get out. Swearing profusely in his mouth, venting his dissatisfaction and disgust towards the dragon people. Hanmu calmly clasped his nails. Shwa. A pale bone knife cuts through. Several survivors who were about to agree watched helplessly as the brave young man was beheaded in the waist. Blood splattered all over the ground. This young man, who had just stepped out of school and had not yet been subjected to social abuse, experienced the most brutal teaching in his life. I'm not your father, I won't get used to your little temper. I saved all your lives. If I let you die, you must find a way to die quickly. If you don't want to obey me, you can walk out of here. Don't worry, I won't stop you. Hanmu wore a gentle smile on his face. But as long as I'm here, my words must be obeyed. The air around seemed to solidify in this low pressure. Remember this face, in the next life, stay away. Puff. The survivor, who was howling, was crushed in the head with a foot. Above the line of sight, the golden icon flickers. Hanmu's eyes couldn't help but brighten. Can killing also gain experience? The survivors in the room were as silent as cicadas. After the surprise, Hanmu's face was cold and indifferent. These little brats, the more they are willing to show goodwill, the more they will advance and not take you seriously. Only by using the most brutal and ruthless means can they be made to fear and tremble at the thought. Only by giving a little more kindness can they obediently obey and show submission by wagging their tails and begging for mercy. Once they see the opportunity, they will develop unrealistic ambitions in their hearts. I feel like I can do it again. By high-pressure and cruel means, they repeatedly broke their spines. Engrave servility in one's bones. After generations of differentiation and training, they will become domesticated animals, more gentle than dogs. These ancestors of Xiao Shiba were originally a dog raised by the Dragon Kingdom. Now it's just about making them recognize their master and return to their sect. Take a few survivors and move all the daily necessities that can be used in the residential house to the villa. This can exhaust several survivors to death. But no one dared to resist, and the tragedy of the first warrior still lingered in their minds. Returning to the villa, there were more than 20 survivors, one by one. There was less hostility in his eyes, but more gentleness and flattery. Hanmu was not surprised at all. When their fantasies and pride shatter, they will carefully consider whether they will give up their lives for dignity. He just put the cruelest reality in front of them and let these people choose for themselves. Be a gentle and loyal dog by obeying his commands. Still maintain the so-called pride, being torn apart by those zombies one by one. Reality is not a TV drama. There will be warriors who dare to face death, but ultimately only a few. More people, in order to survive, will constantly break their bottom line. For the first time, they will constantly compromise without a bottom line. Is a person without personality and dignity still human? It's just a dog dressed in human skin. This villa is still a bit too small. Hanmu looked at the situation in the villa. In the villa, more than 20 people crowded into a room, with each man and woman occupying a corner. When sleeping, you have to lean against the wall. A nice mansion that looks like a refugee camp. Moreover, these guys haven't taken a shower for a few days, and the combination of sweat and odor makes him unable to open his eyes. It's time to find a bigger territory. A suitable place for survivors to gather should first be spacious enough. At least find a large factory that can accommodate tens of thousands of people and can accommodate hundreds of thousands of people with just a squeeze. Next is a sufficiently high shelter or power grid. Zombies will evolve. These small houses and villas cannot withstand the evolved zombies. Moreover, the distance from the city center cannot be too close or too far. Hundreds of thousands of zombies in the city center, any wave of impact will have to be played out. You can drive a little further away from the city, provided that the traffic is smooth. However, establishing such a large survivor base is not something that can be easily accomplished in a short period of time. With these 2 or 3 undead souls and 20 or 30 survivors in his hands, I can't even pull up a wall. I remember there should be a high-end hotel nearby. Hanmu opened the map and took a look. The hotel is not far, at most only 2 streets away from here. It's only a 20-minute walk away. Moreover, next to the hotel is a commercial street, with a large supermarket directly across from it. After cleaning up the zombies, there are enough items in the supermarket for thousands of people to eat and drink for a month. On the 28th floor of the hotel, except for the lobby on the first floor, even if there are only 20 rooms on the first floor, there are nearly 600 rooms. A room squeezed together can accommodate 4 or 5 people. A hotel has 3,000 people. Then clean up this area first. Hanmu's gaze was on the residential area between the homestead and the hotel. 2 streets, nearly 100 houses. Cleaning it up can almost elevate the skills of Undead Contract and Summoning Skull to level 5. If you're lucky, physical enhancement can also be upgraded to 1 level. Advancing to level 2 requires 1,000 experiences, and reaching level 5 requires only tens of thousands of experiences. Hanmu rubbed his teeth and felt toothache all over his face. With tens of thousands of experience, he only needs to kill enough zombies. Although it is also possible to directly upgrade talents with skill points. But the problem is, he doesn't even have enough skill points to light up new talents, there's no extra skill point to upgrade talents. First, clean up the zombies around here. Hanmu waved his hand and a magic circle instantly formed on the ground. A skeleton soldier slightly smaller than Xiaobai was summoned. Is the quality of the undead summoned directly random? Hanmu felt lost in thought. He thought that the undead summoned without sacrificial offerings were all strong, 2-meter-tall skulls like Xiaobai. It seems that he was overthinking. Xiaobai is probably also a type of innate talent in the underworld. Throw a handful of crystal nuclei casually. Let the newly summoned skeleton soldiers stay and guard their homes. Take Xiaobai and number 2 straight to the second residential street. The 2 streets are less than 10 meters apart. Scattered zombies wander aimlessly on the streets. There are scattered blood stains remaining on the ground. It has been a week since the end of the world came. Most of the survivors have probably eaten up their food at home. Ordinary people who go out to search for food and are discovered by zombies are a dead end. Hanmu and his 2 younger brothers went on a rampage of killing. Zombies were beheaded by sharp bone knives one by one. A dying counterattack can only leave shallow scratches on the evolved skeleton warriors. Holding a bone shield, a simple collision caused the dense zombies to scatter directly. With a sweep of the shield tip, the surrounding zombies were scattered with blood and shattered heads. The evolved skeleton warriors have undergone earth-shattering changes in both strength and defense. Hanmu whistled and the baseball bat spun around his palm. Bang! A zombie's head exploded directly. Now is the moment of slaughter. Chapter 8. Skeleton Archer. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This damn weather, it's really hot. Wiping the sweat off his head, Hanmu twisted open a bottle of mineral water. Gudu. Drink it all in one breath. There are nearly 120 residential buildings in 2 blocks. In half a day, it was only half cleaned up. Kill over 100 zombies. In addition, 70 to 80 survivors were also discovered. The oldest one is around 40 years old. But most of them are young people in their 20s. Almost all those elderly people over 50 years old have turned into zombies without exception. Older people at this age have low resistance and cannot withstand viral infections. Hanmu kicked open an anti-theft door. A pungent and bloody smell rushed across my face. The floor was splattered with a large amount of blood, as well as flesh and blood residue that had not been eaten clean. This level of health is not something that a person can keep. This family has at least 2 survivors, but it is estimated that they were all eaten by zombies. Hanmu's expression was calm and he had become accustomed to it. It's okay for zombies to appear on the street. If family members around you suddenly become infected with the virus, the whole family must be round and round. This is the cruelty of the end. Hanmu is sometimes pondering. After this disaster, how much more can the global population of 30 billion remain? 5 billion. 3 billion. I'm afraid 90% of humanity will have to pay for this apocalypse. Fortunately, there is enough population in this world. Otherwise, after a doomsday, how many 100 million people are still left? One person with 2 bones, scraped once on the first floor, and then went to the second floor. Looking through the entire second floor, Hanmu did not find any trace of the zombie. But in front of the open window in the second floor bedroom. But it left a shallow footprint. Evolutionary body. Interesting. Hanmu looked out the window at the street with great interest. Knowing to climb the window and leave, this zombie has at least evolved basic intelligence. Absolutely an evolutionary zombie. In just 2 days, I encountered 2 evolutionary zombies. These zombies may evolve faster than he imagined. A monk can run, but a temple cannot run. Hanmu slowly withdrew his gaze. As long as this evolutionary organism is still nearby, it will eventually fall into his hands. Just as he was about to leave, a piece of iron rod under the bed caught Hanmu's attention. Hanmu took out his things from under the bed. It's a silver-white baseball bat. I don't know if it's solid wood or iron core. It's 90 centimeters long and estimated to weigh over 10 pounds. A layer of titanium alloy steel is coated on the outside. What's this special about playing baseball and using it to kill people? Hanmu couldn't help roast that it was hard to hold such a heavy baseball bat. Use it to play baseball, are you crazy? It's quite convenient. Hanmu shook the baseball bat in his hand. This weight is just right for him. This thing is the most suitable for fighting zombies. Let's go. I waved and led my 2 younger brothers downstairs. Just as I walked out of the door, a gust of bad wind hit my head. Hanmu saw the rapidly expanding shadows on the ground, but there was no time to react. Bang! Following closely behind, Xiaobai stepped forward with an arrow and raised his bone shield to support Hanmu's back. The attacker was forcefully pushed back. Xiaobai stood still in place, motionless. Sun Tzu, you're quite good at playing. Hanmu, who narrowly escaped death, had a furious murderous intent flashing in his eyes. By chance, I almost capsized in the sewer. But the attacker failed to strike and turned around to escape. Taisue's head is breaking ground. If you are allowed to run away, how can I be the boss? Hanmu's face was filled with murderous intent. 2 skeleton soldiers raised their shields and collided, interrupting the attacker's last chance of escape. Hanmu now has time to take a good look at this guy who attacked him. With grayish-white skin and a strong physique close to 2 meters high, the clothes were torn apart by ferocious muscles all over the body. In the murky eyeballs, blood threads spread one by one. Evolutionary zombies. It's only slightly different from the one he encountered before. This evolutionary zombie should be more inclined towards power in its evolutionary direction. This guy should be the zombie that ran away from the house. I thought I had run away, but I didn't expect to hide and wait for him. Kill him. It is impossible to compete alone. The claws and teeth of zombies, as well as the sweat secreted from their pores, contain a large amount of virus residue. It's not a big deal if you accidentally get a cut. A nail-sized wound is enough to infect a person. And, as a quasi-undead mage, what is it like to fight with a stick and human flesh? Silent Xiaobai and number 2 approached the zombie at lightning speed. Roar. Evolutionary beings let out a roar. He forcefully pulled down the anti-theft door and smashed it at the two little white people like a weapon. The second shield blocked the anti-theft door, and Xiaobai took the opportunity to bend his knees and crawl through it. Jumping up, a powerful and heavy chop. The evolutionary body had one arm chopped off. Number 2 rolled and took advantage of the situation to make a comeback, directly leading the way. A zombie evolutionary body that looked very hanging but was actually very picky was slaughtered in less than 2 minutes. A series of collaborations stunned Hanmu, who watched the entire battle. He was still thinking of going up to help, but in the blink of an eye, his opponent became cold. After half a day of silence, he let out a cow's beep. Hanmu sighed on his face, with only one thought in his heart. This undead faction is too strong, isn't it? Silently open the talent list. As expected, experience points skyrocketed by 100 points. The intelligent zombie he encountered last time was at best half an evolutionary form. The power-type zombie encountered this time is the real evolutionary body. Being able to forcefully pull the anti-theft door off the wall shows how terrifying this guy's power is. In addition to experience points, there is also one skill point. Hanmu consumes 200 experience and directly elevates Summoning Skull to level 3. Consume 400 experience and elevate the Undead Contract to level 4. There are still 600 experience points left. Undead Contract, Basic Talent. Beginner LV4, Effect. Can summon low-level undead, with a maximum summoning limit of +4 undead-type items. You sign a contract with the underworld, and the undead will serve you as the lord. Talent upgrade requirement. 800 experience points, Summoning Skull, Basic Talent. Beginner LV3, Effect. Can summon 1.3 undead bones that are not afraid of death to fight for you, using corpses as a medium to reduce consumption by 2/3, talent upgrade requirement. 400 experience, as 2 talents upgrade, a dark secondary talent below the Summoning Skull talent is illuminated by Hanmu. Summoning. Skeleton Archer, Advanced Talent. Beginner LV1, Effect. Can summon 1 archer for long-range combat to fight for you, using corpses as a medium to reduce consumption by 2/3, talent upgrade requirement. 200 experience, Buzz. A dark magic circle emerged on the ground. A smaller figure was summoned out. Pale bones, petite skeleton, dressed in simple leather armor, holding a long bow, and hanging a bag of bone arrows around the waist. Is this the skeleton archer? It feels very average. He can squeeze to death with just one hand. This idea just flashed through Hanmu's mind. A powerful bone arrow brushed past his ear, and the cold breath made him smell the smell of death. Bang! Hanmu turned his head and looked behind him. A zombie who crawled out of nowhere was shot through the head with an arrow. Nailed to the wall like an ornament by arrows. Most of the bone arrows sank into the hard cement. Chapter 9. Southern Cold Demon. I'm very angry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's a bit outrageous. Hanmu looked at the bone arrow half inserted into the cement. Thinking to myself, what's the difference between this thing and bullets? No, this is no longer the destructive power that bullets can cause. Large caliber sniper guns are quite similar. With just one arrow, it is estimated that even the metal sheet of a car can be pierced through. Not to mention ordinary zombies, even evolved zombies cannot withstand this arrow. Hanmu glanced at the skull archer's quiver. There are a total of 20 bone arrows in the quiver bag. Just one was shot, and there are still 19 left. Just thinking of this, a white bone arrow refreshed from the arrow bag. Can this thing still refresh? How did it do it? Hanmu didn't understand, but was greatly shocked. Although refreshing takes time, it's already quite challenging, okay. Undoubtedly, it is an advanced branch of the undead faction. I don't know if Xiao Bai's bone shield can block the archer's bone arrows. Hanmu estimated that blocking everything was unrealistic. The power of this bone arrow is almost comparable to that of a sniper rifle. Being able to block 3 or 5 arrows is the limit. Pick a milky white crystal nucleus from the evolutionary zombie's skull, wipe it clean, and put it in your pocket. With the skeleton archer, Hanmu's speed in clearing zombies has increased significantly. Whoosh whoosh. White bone arrows shot out one by one, as if deadly notes. Street side, house, second floor zombies were shot directly from a distance of 100 meters. What Hanmu needs to do is to take the 2 little white people and clean up the missing zombies. If there were more archers, it would be more comfortable. 2 blocks are about to be cleared. Hanmu took out his phone, attached an accelerator, and climbed over the wall to connect to the Dragon Kingdom network. As soon as I connected to the internet, I saw several top-ranked posts hanging on the homepage. Encounter of zombie evolutionary form. Collection of additional evolutionary form types on the deep application of crystal nuclei. Can humans evolve like zombies? Of various countries have discovered super variants, suspected of animal mutations. Hanmu clicked on the first post. I looked at it at a glance. A few minutes later, Hanmu rubbed his chin thoughtfully. According to this post, evolutionary zombies have emerged in various countries and regions in the past 2 days. According to researchers, the zombies evolved by these individuals will experience terrifying increases in some aspect. There are currently 3 known types of evolutionary zombies. Enhanced, intelligent, and super-capable enhanced zombies can be roughly divided into strength enhancement, speed enhancement, defense enhancement, physique enhancement, burst enhancement. For example, a power-enhanced zombie can lift a car solely based on its strength, but its speed and defense are average. Speed-enhanced zombies can reach a normal speed of up to 100 meters/5 seconds, and even reach 100 meters/3 seconds in their ultimate state. Some zombies may even possess multiple enhanced abilities at the same time. And the intelligent zombie is the least discovered and most mysterious type of evolutionary body. Currently, it is only known that the intelligence of this type of evolutionary body far exceeds that of other types of zombie evolutionary bodies, and there are currently no other special abilities. Superpower-type zombies, also known as ability-type zombies, have a mix of abilities, and there are currently dozens of known types. Flame control, self-explosion, highly toxic spray, overspeed regeneration. The abilities of superpowered zombies may vary, but they all have the potential for deeper evolution. Although currently there are only a very small number of zombie evolutionary bodies. On average, only one case occurs in thousands or tens of thousands of miles. However, it is a fact that the number of evolutionary organisms is rapidly increasing. The clearer you are about the danger, the more you know what despair is. Hanmu shook his head. The power of zombies has already surpassed that of ordinary people, and now there is a large-scale evolution. If a solution cannot be found, it will definitely cause great panic. But this kind of thing cannot be concealed. Rather than concealing and causing suspicion, it's better to show it openly. Hanmu opened the second post, which discussed speculations about the use of crystal nuclei. Hanmu is not surprised. There are billions of people in the world, and there is always someone who can kill zombies. He can discover the extraordinary nature of crystal nuclei, and others can naturally do the same. There is currently only a lack of an effective, safe method to utilize the power of crystal nuclei. Some people suggest swallowing it raw, while others think of grinding the crystal nucleus into powder and taking it. Some people also want to feed crystal nuclei to dogs to see if they can cultivate a pet named Nyobi. Some even plan to drill a few holes in the forehead and embed crystal nuclei on it to feel spiritual energy. There are various imaginative ideas, but there are not many who truly dare to try. Anyway, Hanmu doesn't feel very reliable. Close the webpage and open the third post. Lighthouse Nation's airspace, a 100-meter giant bird is spotted, and 3 fighter jets crash. The largest zoo in the imperial capital, where countless wild animals died tragically, it is suspected that a powerful mutated beast has appeared. In the jungle of South Korea, towering vines appeared, and the 100-strong troops disappeared in an instant. In the Pacific Ocean, giant octopuses have emerged, and a battleship has been completely destroyed. Suspected extinct ancient creatures appear. Hanmu rubbed his temples. The least desirable thing still happened. He had been thinking before, if humans can be infected by viruses, why can't animals and plants be infected? Now, worries have become real. Originally gentle animals, after mutation, are full of aggression, and even take the initiative to attack humans. However, these have nothing to do with him for the time being. The entire state of Lighthouse State has fallen, and Congress is discussing nuclear sanctions. Military forces from all over the country have mobilized to clean up zombies, resulting in heavy losses. After scrolling through the news for a while, Hanmu saw that his phone had low battery, so he put it away. Overall, although the apocalypse swept across the world, but major powers still hold a certain level of order. However, it's easy to say how long this order can be maintained. Anyway, Hanmu is not very optimistic. Kicking open the anti-theft door, Hanmu burst into a residential house. Ah, she. Who are you and why did you break into my house? Hanmu tilted his head slightly and looked towards the staircase. A young girl with light makeup on her face, full of vigilance. A gray buttock skirt, low-cut short tank top, and black mesh socks. The water snake waist, which is faintly visible, has a tender and white skin, with a protruding front and a protruding back, and an astonishing burden. Despite having a pure and innocent face, there seems to be a seductive fairy hidden deep inside. It looks a bit familiar to me. Hanmu frowned and suddenly remembered that this was a popular online anchor recently. What's your name, Zhang Nang, the southern cold demon? Hanmu knew about this woman because she expressed disgust towards dragon people during the live broadcast. No matter what the reason is, he really lacks favor towards this woman. But it must be admitted that this woman is truly a natural beauty. What do you want to do? Watching Hanmu slowly climb the stairs, Zhang Nang trembled nervously all over. I've been very angry lately. Hanmu's mouth curved upwards, and his smile was very arrogant. When he used to watch those cold country tycoons on TV, his heart was always thinking. If he had this strength, would he be so flamboyant? After thinking about the time for a meal, Hanmu came to a conclusion. If he were young and powerful, he would be even more arrogant than on TV. In the apocalypse, strength is the rule. Women, if you're interested in this kind of thing, grab it directly. Not to mention being a little Shiba. Talking and playing with Bangzi, are you having a cute mind? A pure waste of time. Chapter 10. Eating should be swallowed carefully and slowly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is it too hot? Zhang Nang looked bewildered. The next second, the delicate and pure face was slowly caressed by a rough big hand. Zhang Nang was just about to struggle. That gentle murmur, like a demon, sounded in my ears like a nightmare. This face is really beautiful. You don't want to be torn apart by those zombies, do you? Palm down her cheek, locking her neck like pliers. Although her voice was gentle, Zhang Nang seemed to have been thrown into an ice cave, her blood freezing. The body stiffened and even forgot to struggle under the threat of death. Now, please make me a little happy. The head was grabbed and pressed down by a powerful hand. Zhang Ning bit her lips slightly, gently lowering her proud head. Bowing down to the strong is an instinct for survival. I like obedient children like you the most. Han Mu's eyes showed satisfaction. In the face of death, he gave up his dignity and wanted to live, which is what he loves the most about these little girls. If he encounters a group of tough bones who would rather die than surrender, he will have a headache. They can be said to have perfectly inherited the fine traditions of their ancestors. During World War II, Sakura Kingdom invaded Nanhan, and a group of Nanhan puppet troops oppressed their compatriots in order to survive and help Xiaori take the initiative to bring women from our own country to the Little Day military camp and serve as comfort women. Later, when Little Day invaded the Dragon Kingdom, these Southern Han puppet troops played the role of lackeys in it. But Xiaori didn't trust them either, so these Xiao Shiba could only use wooden sticks as weapons to oppress the dragon people. So there is the nickname, Han Guobangzi. Later, Xiaori was defeated in the war and South Korea's economy was in a recession, making it difficult for him to even afford a meal. The ruling party had a sudden idea. Since they don't have money, why don't they imitate Little Japan? A legislator waved his pen and proposed, to make foreign military personnel feel satisfied and happy, we can only allow more comfort women. At that time, the Prime Minister of Nanhan was also worried about how to make money. After discussion and contemplation, the legalization of sexual transactions was directly approved. Directly order the establishment of over 100 comfort centers nationwide, allowing those comfort women who participated in World War II to resume their old jobs. Even inciting female citizens to participate in this great patriotic activity, and serving the troops of the lighthouse country stationed in southern Han. After all, domestic money is too hard to wipe one's buttocks, and there is no fragrance from foreign exchange. At its peak, the number of comfort centers in Nanhan approached 200, and the number of prostitutes even reached 1 million. Ancestors have this virtue, but how can future generations improve? Han Mue looked at the staircase and was mesmerized by the ceiling. Frowned and then let go. He is contemplating a life question. Who am I? Where am I? Where am I from and where am I going? The birth and origin of life, where it begins and where it ends. This is a serious question. Pop. Didn't your mother teach you to swallow slowly when eating? At 8 o'clock in the morning, the soft sunlight shone in the bedroom. Two figures were faintly visible lying in the bed. Due to a storm at night, the room was a bit messy. Fortunately, the rainwater in the room has dried up. Han Mu stood at the window stretched lazily, feeling refreshed. Young people should regularly exercise in the morning to avoid getting wet on their shoes when they get old and go to the bathroom. Don't be too addicted to fitness, men should still prioritize their careers. Han Mu called the skeleton archer over. Take out the milky white crystal nucleus from your pocket. Half the size of a fist, shimmering with a crystal-like luster, as if it were a diamond. This crystal nucleus was dug out from the skull of the evolutionary zombie he killed yesterday. Evolutionary zombie crystal core, he only has 1.5 on his body. Besides this one, half of it was dug out of the brain of that intelligent zombie. He had already handed it over to Xiao Bai. I absorbed 10 ordinary zombie crystals yesterday, and with this evolved zombie crystal, it should be almost there. The evolution of the undead requires sufficient life and soul energy. Absorb the energy of this crystal nucleus, even if it doesn't work, it should still be similar. And he still has dozens of crystal nuclei in his pocket. You can also stack up an elite-level skeleton archer. Add the newly evolved little white number 3. He has 4 elite-level undead brothers under his command. The fire of the soul spreads, enveloping the crystal nucleus in front of us. It took about 3 minutes for the skeleton archer to fully absorb the nucleus of this evolutionary body. The fire of the soul burns fiercely, and its color changes towards dark green. The soul is the source of power for the undead. The transformation of soul fire represents that the skeleton archer has completed evolution. It seems like there hasn't been any special change. Hanmu carefully scrutinized the evolved skeleton archer. The body size is still so small, barely around 1.7 meters. The bones of both arms and thighs seem to have thickened a bit, and the bone arrows inside the arrow bag have become 30, appearing more delicate and sharp. The bones of the arms become thicker, which can increase the strength and explosiveness when pulling the bow. Strengthening the bones of the legs and feet can enhance agility and speed, used to evade attacks and chase enemies. The body of an archer is fragile and cannot resist beating like a novice, so agility is very important. As for the arrows, Hanmu took out a bone arrow and struck it. It doesn't feel like a bone arrow, it's more like a steel arrow polished with alloy. The streamlined arrow body can reduce wind resistance. The penetration power of this arrow is at least 30% higher than that of the previous bone arrow. Unfortunately, this type of bone arrow will automatically decompose after leaving the quiver for 3 minutes. Otherwise, Hanmu really wants to collect a few and study carefully what material they are. Although these things are good. But after absorbing so many crystal nuclei to evolve, is that all that has changed? Hanmu is a bit dissatisfied. After all, compared to the changes that Xiao Bai and his team have undergone after evolution, the difference is quite significant. Wrinkling his brow, he circled around the skeleton archer a few times. His gaze suddenly shifted to the bone arch behind him. It feels like there has been some change, but upon closer inspection, it seems like nothing has changed. Hanmu reached out and shook his hand, his expression slightly surprised. So heavy. The weight of this bow is at least 50 pounds or more. Is this planning to use the bow as a hammer? A 50-pound bow is somewhat outrageous. Feng Tianhua's halberd is not so heavy, is it? Hanmu gently lifted the bone bow and used all his strength to barely pull the bowstring apart. Replace it with the previous bone arch, it's not so difficult to pull. The key to the evolution of skeleton archers should be on this bow. I just don't know how powerful this bow is. Hanmu threw the bow to the skeleton archer and pointed to a landscape tree 300 meters away. Shoot that tree with an arrow. A tree 300 meters away is as thick as a rope to the human eye. Even shooting with a gun can easily miss the target. The skeleton archer casually drew a bone arrow and pulled the bowstring full. Boom! The bone arrow flew out, creating a terrifying wave parallel to the ground. Hanmu's eyes widened, and he could even see the vacuum marks left behind when the surrounding air was squeezed open. A landscape tree 300 meters away, falling with a bone arrow. Bomb and explode.